That's going.
Just really hope the cat behaves.
That's okay. It'll make for some interesting
Good
content.
content.
Hello everyone, I'm Harry, Creative Director here at Chanthology, and today I am joined by Laura Mugford, the author of our brand new book, World Peas. Laura, welcome, / thank you for having me as we are in your flat.
Anytime.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in. We're going to do more of like a rapid fire questions.
Great.
Get through, see what happens, have a good time.
Amazing.
Perfect. Okay, first question. What inspired World Peas?
So, I remember when I was a kid, I would say things wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Quite a classic one in our household is shepherd's pie became shepherd's a pie. And
Nice,
so
nice.
that's like stayed forever. So I was just fascinated when kids know what they mean, but they expect you to know what they mean
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
And it's like a really baffling thing of being like, how do you not understand me? Because I'm saying exactly what I'm saying. And so I think like during sort of 2020, obviously I had a lot of time to think back about like what it was like being a child and loads of time to ponder things. And so I just sort of came up with this fun little story, and that's where it kind of stemmed from, of like miscommunication.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's really lovely. I think we've all experienced, I sometimes experience that in adult life.
Absolutely.
Of trying to say something and everyone going, what?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned there that this idea kind of came about during COVID. Can you talk through kind of the process of writing this story, what it was like during that time, how that might have affected how you approached the timescale that it took?
Absolutely. So for me, yeah, it was just a fun little activity. We used to do a lot of, among our household, these sort of fun writing groups, and we'd all have different prompts, and we'd just kind of take an hour on a Sunday night to just write nonsense, essentially. And I used to write a lot of rhyming stuff, a lot of almost like poetry stemming from these prompts. And so I think it came about on one of those where something silly came up, and I was like, oh, what's something that would just make people laugh? Because I feel like it was such a stressful time, and it was all anyone wanted to talk about were like the big problems and like how do we fix this big thing that's going on. And it was sort of like none of us have an answer to that at this point, especially like me. I don't have an answer to that. This is a huge thing. And I think all of that kind of came together in like very quick succession. I just sort of whacked out this fun story about, you know, trying to find an answer to a big problem, but actually just having fun along the
Yeah,
way. And I think that
absolutely.
it all just came together quite quickly.
Oh, amazing. We love that. And you have this really wonderful use of rhyme throughout the story. Was that a conscious choice?
Yeah, for sure. I like using rhyme even in stuff not aimed at children. I find I use it a lot in writing, but that's because I think I've always preferred, I always really liked poetry, and I like that it has a rhythm, and particularly when reading stuff aimed at kids, it's a way to really keep them engaged because it's rhythmic and it follows a pattern and a flow. It's like a song.
Yeah.
And so, but I find that easy to sort of, especially when you can get a little bit of block when it comes to like you get to a point in the story and you're like, how do I move forward with this? Rhyme pushes you in the right direction because you're having to look for your word choice is kind of limited
Yeah.
for how you want to tell a story. So I always enjoy using that to sort of tell concise short stories.
Yeah, amazing. That's wonderful. And you slightly touched upon this briefly in the previous two questions, but the core message of World Peas, what were you going for? What how did that, did you have an idea about kind of a message
Mm.
beforehand, or was it kind of this specific message kind of came through as you were kind of working through these ideas?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it was a little bit of everything in that I definitely had in the back of my mind the idea of like what when you're faced with a big problem, sometimes there's nothing you can do, but actually there's always something you can do that helps a little bit. And so it's that idea of, there's so much chaos and horrible things happening in the world, and you don't have the individual power to solve anything. But if you can make one person's day a little bit brighter,
Yeah.
do something kind, do something funny, do something silly, then that's enough to
Yeah.
do. And that's something that we all have the power to do, whether you be, especially as a little kid, like when you're really, really small, you have very little power over absolutely anything. Your parents can dictate your whole life, and you've got all these parameters. You go to school and you do this and this and this. And I think that if you can make it your mission to just make people smile, make people happy, then that solves many problems that you didn't even think of.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of in the back of my mind when creating it. And it's hard to take a children's story and place it in like really quite real world problems, but I think using that as the backdrop, it helps you look at these problems through a child's eyes, which sometimes like we all forget to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, yeah. It's such a simple objective to have, but it's one that can have such a massive impact, literally on anyone that you come
Yeah,
across, whether it be just
absolutely.
smiling at someone on the street. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's really amazing, and it definitely comes across in this book.
great. It's good
Everybody
to
who's
know.
read it and I've spoken to about it loves it. They think it's such an adorable and fun and uplifting story. So, mission
Great.
accomplished, I would say.
Fantastic. It's good to hear.
Nice. Well, now that we've moved away kind of the process of you making the book, well, writing the manuscript, um, let's talk about. We've signed the contract for you to come on board, and we're
Yep.
gonna publish your book, and that I feel like that can be like a really daunting process.
Mm.
What were your thoughts and feelings like as that contract's been signed? Now the anticipation of kind of waiting for the project to come to fruition.
Yeah, I would say it was very exciting for me because when writing it, I just never thought anything. I never thought I'd see it in person. I never thought there would be an opportunity to see it as a book brought to life with illustrations. Even though it was like sort of the dream with it, it was never something I actually considered could happen. So to just get to the stage where it was like, oh, we've got a project timeline and you can chat to the illustrator, it's like, oh my god, okay, great.
Yeah,
This is so cool.
yeah,
And also it was that thing of being excited to see what someone else pictured when reading your words. I think it's such a unique experience working with an illustrator, particularly because even though you picture what you're writing and it's all come from inside your head and you can talk to other people about what they pictured, neither of you get to see anything visually from that. It's all just words still. So
yeah,
to be able to work with an illustrator and immediately see what they see, it's just so unique. I think it's like something that not many authors even really get to
yeah,
experience. So that was such a cool and exciting thing that I feel like even really early on in the process, seeing the initial sketches and even just swapping backwards and forth the sort of manuscript with the illustration notes on it of being which pages should be illustrated, which lines should be illustrated. It's that's fascinating to see what other people pick out as important in your work as well. And that was just so exciting. So the process felt very collaborative from the start, which was very lucky, I think, and quite unique to like this publishing experience because
mm,
not a lot of people get that
yeah,
collaboration, particularly author to illustrator. And it was just, yeah, really very creatively like fulfilling and exciting. I wasn't nervous at any point that it was going to look like
good, good,
awful.
good, nice,
I had faith,
good,
especially I feel
good.
like I'd seen Lily's artwork on your Christmas story, The
Yes,
Forgotten Gift,
yes,
and it was perfect because she's got such a beautiful style
yeah,
and it feels so nostalgic and very purposefully for children, in a very just stunningly beautiful visual way. And so I had faith.
yeah, yeah. Lily is amazing,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about it's only ever in your head.
yeah,
Everybody, even when you describe it to someone, they're going to picture something completely different from
yeah,
you. And I think we often find, especially when you're working with like really good illustrators, they're able to translate the words into image that we're able to receive and
mm,
enjoy in a far better way than we as a writer could
yeah,
imagine it to come out. It's such an amazing process, especially when they bring something out. You're like, I didn't even see that in my
yeah.
own mind, but it's perfect.
Yeah, they add
Yeah.
to the story. It's so
Yes.
that's why it's so important to like really talk about the illustrator as well because they've done like this extra chunk that's just turned the story into something else. Like even particularly in Wild Peas, giving the little girl a pet. It's like these little things that are world building that I
Yeah.
hadn't considered. That then through the visual age, you actually build this world around her of
Yeah.
what does her pet look like? What does her bedroom look like? Things that aren't described at all in the text, but visually, you're then building a character and you're building her family and her lifestyle outside of the story, which is like very cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, Lily's work is just stunning.
Mm.
Really, really stunning. Um, okay, so we've kind of actually touched upon it really. But let's get more succinct. How was the actual process for you? So the book's gone into kind of production. We're working
Mm.
with the illustrator. What specifically was that process like of going through drafts here, there, seeing how it's laid out, then going, okay, we've done, it's print time.
Yes. Oh, I mean, it felt like it happened really quickly for me over that sort of time period of going from maybe December through all the way through to now, like in April.
Hmm.
It felt very quick, and yeah, there's a lot of stages to it. You know, you see, I mentioned before the sort of illustration manuscript of going through and having those sort of like those lines pulled out that you'd like to see, to then initially getting Lily's concept sketches, which are almost storyboarding for the whole
Yeah,
piece, and then seeing the color renderings of those for the first time and sort of seeing each page come to life, not only the color renderings but where the text sits within those renderings, stuff that I never thought about that were part of that process but actually are all really important
yeah,
to how the book comes together and how the story flows. So seeing each stage of that was absolutely fascinating because I hadn't considered a lot of that before. But then after all that's done, and you know that at the final, we've approved everything, you've approved
yeah.
everything,
Yes,
and said, "Yeah, this is
yeah,
good to go."
yeah,
It was then kind of, it just, you're in this sort of like no man's land for a bit until you see, you know, you see what you hope it's going to be because you've seen what the color images look like, and you know you've got PDF essentially
yeah,
of the book, but it's a completely different experience entirely getting it in
yeah,
person and actually physically picking up the book and seeing how the pages, like turning the pages and watching the story continuation from page to page, like that is crazy.
yeah,
It's crazy the difference between, yeah, flicking through a PDF on your laptop versus holding a physical book.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we've kind of rolled through into my next question, which is amazing. So seeing that book for the first time, I sent you a package.
Hmm.
Can you talk us through opening the package, seeing it there? What's going on in your mind? What's like it like holding it, the
Yep.
weight, all of that sort of stuff.
So it was fascinating because, well, it was hilarious because I'd kind of wasn't sure when it was arriving. Like I knew roughly when it would arrive, but when it got dropped off at my door, at first I was like, "What have I ordered? I don't know what this is." And then I went to open it and suddenly was seized with the realization that I was like, "Oh my god, this is the book." So, and it was 10 copies altogether, and so I opened it on camera to record a little video to send to Harry of me opening it, and it was so, I was very nervous, and that, I think that was the first time I felt nervous actually in the
Yeah,
process of being like, I knew it was going to be good, but like there's always that 1% chance that
yeah,
like it might not look at like how you would hope it would look.
yeah,
But sort of opening the package, it felt very heavy for the first thing. I was like, 10 books in here. That seems like a lot of books, but also there's, reasonably small books.
yeah.
But I was like, okay, right, this is serious, beautifully packaged. Beautifully,
Thank you,
lots
thank
of
you.
lovely tissue
Yeah,
paper,
so
all color coordinated too. It was like green and
branded,
blue, like
branded. Yeah.
nice, and it felt very official, I'll tell you that. There's a lovely note on the top from Harry, which was
Yeah.
so lovely. It really felt like I was getting like the best Christmas present ever. Like
Yes.
opening it up and being like, wow, I know I wrote this, but really that's the least of this situation.
Yes.
Like I wrote the text, but everyone else has created this amazing thing that I now get to hold.
Yeah.
And so opening it up was so cool. And I think what's so the real moment of like craziness for me,
Yeah.
picking the first book off the top of the pile, opening the first page and seeing the page where it's sort of you can write your name as a
Yeah.
kid. And like I had that in so many books growing up,
Yeah.
of like you get to write your name on it, it's your book. And I feel like as a kid you don't really like you're like, yeah, because it's mine. Like this is my property. And I feel like people get so nostalgic about their experience with children's literature. Everyone, talk to anyone, start a conversation about what was your favorite picture book.
Yes.
People can go for hours, and they'll have 5 books that like shaped their childhood.
Yeah.
And it was that idea of like, and you might write your name in those special ones that were special
Yeah.
to you. And so it was kind of that moment of being like, oh my god, there might be a child out there who they write their name in this book, and this is one of their favorite books for them. And something that in 15-20 years time, when they're sat around at uni and people are talking about their favorite kids books, they bring up World Peace.
Yeah.
It was such a cool, and I got all that just from opening that
Yeah.
first page and really feeling it's very nostalgic. I feel like, especially the way in which picture books are printed as well, of that being, it's like a square book. You don't get that in like your novels,
No.
You're not reading a square novel. And I feel if you are, I'd be curious to know where you're getting them. But it just like feels so lovely to hold, and you always picture like littler hands holding it, and it feels like I always picture books as being so big, but that's because you're so little when you read them.
Yes.
And they like feel like this huge thing in your hand that you're getting all this artwork to look at.
Yeah.
And so going through it for the first time, just turning each page, seeing how everything looked and where the words were placed, like it's a magical experience. It was so exciting, and I sat there for so long afterwards, after I'd gone through and like pulled them out all out of the package, just being like looking at this stack of books. I immediately went to my own bookcase and like put one on there to be like, oh, it looks great on the shelf. Like honestly, I mean, even in this room, they're like everywhere already.
Yeah.
It was such a great experience of like that unboxing experience, seeing it for the first time.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so cool. I just want to touch back on something. So, can we confirm that I am Santa?
Absolutely, yes, 100%. The most fantastic version. You didn't have to creep into my house, but
no.
through Royal Mail.
Through Royal Mail.
Managed to, give Father Christmas energy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Let's go.
Perfect.
Perfect. Cool. So, final question. You kind of touched upon it earlier on, but what do you hope that readers get from taking the time to read World Peas?
I just hope that it's one of those stories, particularly in its message and the characters, the little girl, but also the tree. I hope they're things that like come back and come up again and again, even after the book's been read and maybe put back on the shelf. It's that idea of bringing a little bit of magic with you every single day, and trying to use that for good, and trying to make sure that ultimately every day your aim is to spread a bit of silliness, a bit of happiness where you can.
Love that. Love that. And again, that is perfectly encapsulated in World Peas. Laura, I am so thankful that you went on this journey with us, and I'm so thankful that you are sitting down to talk with me today. And perfect. We'll leave it there. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy the book even more. You can buy Laura Mugford's World Peas on Amazon or via our website. The link will be in the description of this video. We are currently doing a buy one, give one campaign for Laura Mugford's World Peas. So for every copy that you buy, we will donate one. So make sure you head over to Amazon or our website and buy a copy. It does everyone good. Cool. Call it there.
Splendid.
Incredible stuff. Well, that was a lot of fun.
That was great.